nobody was there to record this very moment when I just learned how to play chess, watching my parents trying to solve problems. And that was a great moment because I was very lucky that I discovered chess at such an early age, around 6, and the rest was almost automatic. So I knew the game was for me like a match made in heaven. I climbed at this chess stairs very quickly, and by age 10, everybody knew that I would have a great chess future. I worked very hard. I knew that the hard work was an important ingredient of being successful. My mother always wanted me just to be a balanced boy, and I read a lot of books, played with other kids. I had one day that just on Sunday, that's where I could go to the special, chess section in the Pioneer Palace in Baku. But I never ceased, sort of exploring the game of chess. So that's when I had a chance, I could look at some books, and it was a very steady growth of my knowledge of chess, my chess strengths, and at one point, probably it was age 10, so I became, 9 or 10. So I became more engaged, just adding hours into my preparation. But it was never, too excessive. As you have to do this, you have to spend hours. It's, my mother believed, and she was absolutely right, that, that this progress had to be natural. I became the youngest world champion 30 years ago, just at age 22, and I think the fact that I became world champion at age 22, just tells a lot. And what I was ready to bear the pressure of, psychological pressure of this title, and there's this responsibility, it's another story, but I find no reason to complain about this achievement. I knew that, I always had a challenge because I wanted not just to win the game, not to win the match, but to make the difference. And if you want to make the difference, it means you always are looking for something new. You're always looking for an opportunity to sort of push the horizon, which means you're fighting, your own excellence. So it's like playing yourself, because you did something, and it helped you to win. But if you want to improve, and to make the difference next day, you just have to go beyond that, which was the main reason why I could stay afloat. Actually, I stay on the top for so long because my opponents always had to deal with something new, so they never could catch me, by doing something old-fashioned. I had many great opponents, but naturally, I spent more time at the chessboard with Anatoly Karpov than with any other chess player. So we played 5 world championship matches, from 1984 to 1990, not counting many games, official, unofficial games in classical or in rapid time controls. It was just great learning experience because Karpov's style was very different from mine, and he could do many things much better than I could because he was very quiet, positional player, who could make long-term plans, and just to find a way to get maximum effects or out of the minimum resources that he could rally at the board, while I played more aggressive chess, more dynamic. So playing with him so many games definitely, helped me to become more universal. When you have to polish the diamond. So that's why games with Karpov, they always helped me to advance my own chess style, improve my own chess style, and to advance as a chess player who could master different kind of situations at the board. I always look for new challenges. When I was offered to play the event in 1996, I did it. I thought it was big fun. So I won in '96. So I was not successful in 1997. I wish I had a chance to play the rubber match, the decider, but IBM retired the computer. So I think at that time, I still had a very good winning chance. Yeah, Deep Blue was a powerful machine, but not a match to modern computers. They are not as fast as Deep Blue, but they're far more sophisticated. So in '97, in '98, if IBM had decided to play the match, I believe I would be in the position definitely to do better than in the second match. I always treated this competition, man versus machine, as the very important scientific and social experience of the end of the 20th century. So for me, it was again not just Garry Kasparov versus IBM computer, but a way to promote the game of chess, the way to actually to give chess a new level of recognition. And I guess I did it. There's still debates about the correct definition of artificial intelligence. So are we talking about machines copying the way humans making decisions, or machines doing something else while reaching the same results? Also, I'm not so sure. I'm not sure that human brains could function separately from human bodies. So because it's a combination. So we're still in a learning process about our own intelligence. So that's why, to make this, gloom and doom predictions about artificial intelligence without properly understanding how our intelligence functions, I think it's a bit premature. I don't think that humans will become redundant. Politics for people born in the free world always meant, normal elections, campaigns, debates, fundraising, and other, ingredients of this normal democratic process. In Russia, it was a different kind of fight. I got beaten, arrested, though it happened in the years that you may call vegetarians, because at that time we could spend a few days in jail, 5 days, 10 days in jail. Now, for the same kind of protest, peaceful protest, you could have 5 or 10 years in jail. My very, very close friend and colleague Boris Nemtsov, former deputy prime minister and one of the greatest leaders of Russian pro-democracy movement, has been gunned down in front of Kremlin. It left me speechless, because I was here in New York, and I got a call from one of our friends who's also in exile in the Baltics. And he said, "Gary, Boris was shot." And I just couldn't believe, because it's not just personal relations. Nemtsov was the man, of a great presence, it was an imposing presence, He always, just made his presence known, and a big voice, very powerful presence. And he knew his life was in danger, but he was too proud to leave Russia. And he actually gave me an advice in 2013 to leave Russia, because he knew I would be in big trouble. Ironically, just the friend who called me, he also left Russia because of Boris' advice. Boris advised everybody just to protect themselves. And I just wish he could follow, the same advice and just, stay alive. If you read enough history books, you know that dictators who used to stay in power for a long time, they totally annihilated the political space in the country, and peaceful transition is highly unlikely. I mean, unless they die, as it happened in Portugal or Spain, for instance. But naturally, by that time, there were already many. The trend was different, because both Iberian Peninsula dictatorships, they moved from repressions to kind of some inclusion of different segments. In Russia, it's exactly the opposite. It's more like a Nazi or Stalin's trend, eliminating all the enemies and actually finding more enemies outside of the country. So it's like escalation. First of all, I think the free world must understand that this battle is unavoidable, because for Putin, for Iranian mullahs, for North Korean dictators, for all thugs and criminals and dictators around the world, fighting against the free world is the main motivation for them staying in power, and the way they can, the method they can rally public support behind them. And the world is now interdependent. We live in the era of globalization, and globalization means that we bring down the barriers for financial transactions, for trade, for cultural exchange. So for terrorism, so for export of bad ideas as well as good ideas, and even more so, delivering these bad ideas via the modern technologies, the spread of terrorism and radical thoughts. It's easier because they don't obey the rules. So this crisis is unavoidable, and we'd better do it rather sooner than later. And Europe now is facing another crisis with refugees, which tells you that you can't pretend that what happens in the Middle East doesn't bother you. It does, because people are just coming back and forth, and trying to hide from these problems doesn't help. So we'd better use the enormous power of the free world now, because free world is much more stronger economically and even militarily than the opposition. It's not the case of the Soviet Union 40, 50 years ago. And we need just to find political will. It's about political will. It's about recognition of the general public that we need strong policies to protect our future. If something happens in Russia, or when it happens in Russia, it will not be sort of a peaceful transition. So there will be more of the chaotic change, and I'll be more than happy to participate in this process, but I'm not making big plans now, because nobody knows how exactly Putin's regime ends. From history, we should probably predict that it will be connected to his failure abroad. So this is one of the geopolitical failures, whether it's Syria, whether it's Ukraine, you name it, will create momentum at home, where both Russian public, especially middle class in Moscow, and the Russian elite will recognize that, Putin is expandable, and it's the price to pay for his rule is simply too high. I didn't want to stay forever in the world of chess, recognizing that my contribution has been just reducing on the steady basis. When I decided to quit my professional chess career, so I knew that it would be very unlikely that I could make equal contribution elsewhere, because in chess it was quite a unique contribution. I achieved more than I could dream of, but it was all about making the difference. It's not about the overall impact. I knew that I could do things, and it was not about winning or losing. It was not about sort of the size of this impact. That was kind of a moral duty. Plus, I also thought I could do many things by just writing books, delivering lectures. I didn't want to stay forever in the world of chess. People, of course, remember about my glorious chess past, but they also know that I'm chairman of Human Rights Foundation. I've been doing a lot in promoting human rights and democracy, not only in Russia but elsewhere. I had about 150 appearances in the conferences and seminars, in different kind of events where I could share my views, not only on politics or chess, but also on strategy and decision making and other important business issues. Look, I always knew that chess was a perfect educational tool. It could help kids, especially kids from the underprivileged areas, to enter the modern education. It helps them to improve their cognitive skills, their logic, the discipline, to understand the legal framework. It's not a solution for all the problems, but it's a perfect tool, and it's very inexpensive. I built Kasparov Chess Foundation. It's now operating in New York, in Europe, in South Africa, in Singapore, in Mexico City, and hopefully it will spread around in more places and countries and continents. I also think that it's the educational challenge will be one of the greatest challenges of the 21st century, because we're dealing with new realities. So the new generations, they require new educational basis. And right now we are seeing that classroom is something that has not changed since the middle of the 19th century. So I believe these changes are imminent, and I feel very strongly that chess could play a sort of very positive role in pushing these changes forward. I believe everybody has some form of intuition, but people just in the modern world, they they don't trust it, so they want to find more information from the computer screen. We're all very, you know, good in number crunching, while I believe intuition is kind of a muscle. So if you don't train it, you don't trust it, so you don't develop it. So I always, you know, knew that, you know, following my intuition, you know, could make me fail once or twice, but in big numbers, when you just look at the overall results, relying on your intuition will give you a competitive advantage. I'm uncured optimist by nature, so that's why I believe that we'll eventually find a way around just to solve all the problems. Hopefully I'll be around also in 50 years to actually to prove that this prediction was the correct one.